Hello, my name is Michael, and today my topic will be mass incarceration. So first are some definitions. First definition is mass incarceration, which is defined as the imprisonment of a large number of persons, and this is by the St. Francis College Library in New York. My second definition is that the incarcerated population is a population of inmates confined in a prison or a jail in which individuals are locked up overnight. And this is according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. And my last definition is the general fund, which is defined as the primary state fund from which ongoing expenses of state government are paid. And this is defined by the New Mexico legislature website. So today I'm here to propose or claim that mass incarceration is hurting the United States by being relatively ineffective, financially draining, and hurting the image of the people of the United States. So prisons fail to serve their chief purpose. They were created to enhance public safety, both by keeping dangerous criminals off the street and by deterring would-be offenders. However, a research report by the Pew Charitable Trust found that 1 in every 28 children in the United States, which is more than 3.6%, now has a parent in jail or prison. Just 25 years ago, this figure was only 1 in 125. And according to Tierney Sneed of the U.S. News and World Report, since 1991 and up until the previous year, violence crime has been cut by more than half, and property crime has shrunk by 43%, while imprisonment has still increased by 61%. And in places like New Jersey, Texas, New York, and California, the crime has continued to fall even as prison population decreased. So it has a lot of people asking, is it actually helping fight crime to have the length of the sentences, the number of crimes, and the resulting heavy number of people in prison? And are there things that we can do that cost less money and disrupts less lives? And not only are prisons failing to serve their chief purpose, but also it's causing Congress to allocate time and resources to compensate for overcrowding of these prisons instead of dealing with other and arguably more important issues. The federal prison population, which is about 216,000, according to the Prison Policy Initiative, is smaller than the combined state prison system, which currently holds 1,362,000 inmates. Now, one important resource that Congress must allocate is taxpayer money, which leads me to my next point, that mass incarceration harms the people financially. American taxpayers actually spend more than projected for prison-related costs. Among the 40 states that participated in a survey done by the Vera Institute of Justice, the cost of prisons was $39 billion in fiscal year 2010, which was $5.4 billion more than what their budgets reflected. And the state corrections department actually has to pay for most of these costs. They have to pay for the remainder of the contributions in the future. And the specific costs vary from state to state. Now, the direct cost of this imprisonment has quadrupled over the past 2 decades and now tops over $50 billion a year, consuming 1 in every 15 general fund dollars. And former inmates now have lower economic prospects than their counterparts who haven't been incarcerated. A study by Pew researchers found 3 things. One, that serving time in prison reduces hourly wages for men by approximately 11%, annual employment by 9 weeks, and annual earnings by 40%. 2, by age 48, the typical former inmate will have earned $170,000 less than if he had never been incarcerated. And 3, incarceration depresses the total earnings of white males by 2%, Hispanic males by 6%, and black males by 9%. And my last point is that incarceration negatively impacts America's image in 2 ways. One, as a whole, the United States has the largest incarceration rate in the world. According to an article by Tricia Escobedo of CNN, we have the highest incarceration rate in the world, with 5% of the world's population and 25% of of its prisoners. And nearly 2.5 million Americans are in prison, with nearly 40% of them being African American, who make up only 13% of the population. And now there are also 2.7 million minor children who are under 18 with a parent behind bars. And as for those affected by imprisonment personally, employers are negatively biased towards imprisonment, viewing potential formerly incarcerated employees as a possible hindrance or even as a handicap to business. Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey says that hiring practices often trap people with records and a life sentence of unemployment. He found that a person's chances at a callback interview for an entry-level job dropped by 50% when the applicant had a criminal history. And even if they do get hired, it's for lower positions in society. Former inmates work fewer weeks, earn less money, and have limited upward mobility. And these costs are borne by offenders' families and communities, and they reverberate across generations. So with mass incarceration being less effective than it is portrayed, harming the United States financially, and negatively impacting America's image, I hope it is clear to you that mass incarceration is harming the United States.
All right, Michael, the proposition's very clear. There's an excellent preview of what you're going to be talking about. I think you need to talk a little bit more about what the choices are that we're faced with, because there's not really much discussion of what the alternatives are when it comes to crime, either that people are being incarcerated for no reason, or that it's not accomplishing anything, or they are being incarcerated because they've committed a crime that society sees as dangerous. And if there's another way to take care of it that's cheaper, for instance, and is less damaging, we could use some examples of that to support your point. But I did think that you had like I said, a clear outline of what you're talking about. You signposted the secondary points. The first point, though, seems to me, to suggest the exact opposite conclusion of what you're saying. You've got all these statistics about how crime has gone down and incarceration's gone up, and I would think that the response of the respondent in this situation would say, there's a reason that crime has gone down, and that's because incarceration has gone up. We're locking up people who commit crimes, and so they commit fewer crimes in this situation. If there's an economic impact to crime, then that becomes a benefit to incarceration. And that would be probably the argument that the respondent would probably be focusing on. You need to show that the crime rate is dropping for reasons other than incarceration, and I think you kind of have led them in the direction that they need on this argument. The other arguments I think are a little bit clearer. It was interesting. The employment issue, I think, is an important one, that there are negative consequences long-term to being incarcerated, but you kind of had the argument about the negative effect on employment in two different places instead of together, and that seemed a little bit awkward to me. I did think that you did an excellent job citing all of your evidence, providing a variety. You had a lot of statistical information. There's usually a good explanation of the theory that you're talking about, and I thought that you had a very good summary at the end of the speech. Maybe a little bit more reading than you want, but like I said at the end, I think everybody knew what your argument was and that there was good information that you're using to support it. All right, thank you.